Thanks to the government and people of Korea for inviting me to participate in this celebration. I wish I were with you in person to enjoy our international friendship. In these remarks, I will emphasize asset building as a policy innovation for social investment. The goal of asset building is to enable all people to reach their potential and to contribute to the economy and society. Why asset building? As we move into the information age, labor incomes and social policies to augment those incomes are increasingly strained. If households are to remain stable and raise their children successfully, a larger view of financial security will be necessary. One major policy option is to support not only income, but also assets. Assets are the stock of wealth. Assets can supplement insufficient and uneven income flows and enable investments in household development and provide long-term security. In most industrial economies today, we already have large asset building policies, but mostly for the non-poor. These policies typically operate through the tax system, with tax benefits going for achieving home ownership, retirement accounts, business property, and so on. The policies are regressive. Public subsidies go to people who are not poor. So let us ask, why not asset building policy that includes everyone? This would be more effective and more fair as public policy. Also, a growing body of evidence finds that asset building policy is not just about the money. It has positive impacts on outlooks and behaviors of families. In short, people have better lives when they have some assets to help build their achievements and security. This is not too surprising, but until recently, asset policy was not part of research and innovation in social policy. In 1991, I wrote a book entitled Assets in the Poor that initiated this policy discussion, and we have been busy ever since. Research evidence now provides a strong foundation, and asset-based policies are emerging in the United States, Korea, and many other countries. Discussion of asset building policy began in Korea in 2004 at a conference entitled Toward a New Paradigm in Social Policy, the Potential of Asset Development Accounts in Asset-Based Policy, which was organized by the Korean Labor Institute and Chungcheong University. In March 2007, Mr. Ryu Si-min, then head of the Korean Ministry of Health and Welfare, delivered a keynote address entitled Learning from Korea, Innovative Social Investment Strategies for Future Generations, to American policymakers and experts in Washington, D.C. This speech included a policy recommendation for child development accounts. Since that time, a growing number of asset-based programs have been implemented in both national and city levels in Korea. Prior research and policy design in the United States somewhat informed these initiatives, yet Korean policymakers made distinctive decisions to fit context, challenges, and goals of Korea. Asset building policies in Korea have included innovations in child development accounts, or CDAs, which were started by the Korean government in 2007, aiming to build assets for the most vulnerable children and to reduce intergenerational transmission of poverty. Individual development accounts, or IDAs, for working poor adults were implemented in several major cities. As with CDAs, the focus has been on the most disadvantaged households. IDAs have been implemented in many forms, with research showing positive impacts. These two types of policy applications, CDAs and IDAs, have been implemented in Korea in several varieties, with different participants, usually with forward-looking names such as Hope Building Accounts 1 and 2, Tomorrow Building Accounts, Youth Hope Building Accounts, and Youth Savings Accounts. There has even been an asset building account for North Korean defectors. Looking to the future, the various asset building policy programs in Korea have created a strong foundation for comprehensive social investment policy. Policy features have been defined and institutional arrangements have been put in place. Asset building policy in Korea is now ready for expansion into a larger role of Korean social policy. What would this policy be? In my view, policy expansion can and should continue towards social investment and should include the whole population. How should Korea accomplish this? I suggest three policy principles: universal, everyone is included; progressive, more support for the disadvantaged; and lifelong from birth to death. To put this another way, I'm suggesting that asset building policy should move beyond the idea of helping the poor and toward the idea of developing the whole society. These goals are not mutually exclusive, yet they are not quite the same. Where might Korea look for policy examples? Probably the most advanced example of an inclusive asset-based policy today is in Singapore. Singapore policy is not perfect, no policy is, but Singapore today probably has the most advanced society in terms of asset holding and the most equal. Singapore has used asset-based policy explicitly for nation building, to create citizens who identify with Singapore. In this regard, it is an example that merits attention in terms of its goals, structure, resources, and policy trade-offs. Koreans must decide and follow their own direction, a direction that will fit the Korean context and challenges ahead. The challenges will include maintaining a vibrant economy, distributing resources to the whole society, raising the next generation successfully, and in the longer term, perhaps, reunification with North Korea. Other nations will be very interested in what Korea does. Your economy, society, and political institutions have come a very long way. Personally, I have long admired not only your economic progress, but your strong commitment to democracy, with students and others frequently protesting in the streets. Yet democracy and development are always evolving and never complete. There will always be more to do and more policy ideas to test and more social and economic innovations to put in place. In closing, the question I ask for you today is, should universal, progressive, and lifelong asset building take its place in Korean social policy in the 21st century? Thank you very much for listening. Congratulations to you all.